All right, well, it's great to see everyone here tonight. Catherine Blakespeare, our mayor, is not present today, so as deputy mayor, I will step in and be the chair of tonight's meeting. It's great, like I said, to see everyone. So we're going to get started. It is September 28th, 6 p.m., just after 6 p.m., so I'm going to call this meeting of the Encinitas City Council to order and ask that the city clerk do a roll call.
Yes, Deputy Mayor. Councilmember Hinsey is absent. Councilmember Kranz?
Here.
Councilmember Lyons?
Here.
Deputy Mayor Mosca?
Present.
And then Mayor Blakespeare is absent. So the record will reflect that Councilmember Hinsey and Mayor Blakespeare are absent this evening.
Perfect. All right, okay, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We don't have anything for special presentations or proclamations tonight, so we're going to move right to oral communications, and this is an opportunity for members of the public to address the City Council on items that are not on our agenda. You have 3 minutes to come up and say what you want to say. Hopefully it's within the jurisdiction of our City Council, but you're free to talk about the coal mines of West Virginia or whatever's on your mind. Come on up.
All right, I'm going to call you three at a time. First speaker is Ellen Burr, followed by Scott Campbell, and then Jeff Morris.
Good evening, Council. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm here to request, for the benefit of the taxpayers and residents and citizens of the city, that someone come back with reports on a number of initiatives that have occurred in the past 2 years. Some of this information may be available through Freedom of Information, but we shouldn't have to do that. I know that there are requirements, either mandates or part of our contract agreements, that require reporting. And so, first of all, would be green waste, food waste, transfer, whatever we've been paying for over a year. It would be nice to know where that stands, what's going on, and if we need to include styrofoam and plastic waste in that report, that would be great. Bike share, it's already been, I guess, expanded or plans to be expanded, but it would be nice to know exactly where we stand right now, how many there are, how often they're used, for who uses them, how long are they used. I mean, you know, I can remember the mayor repeatedly saying, we need data, we need data. Well, we're supposed to be having data. It would be nice to have a report. And finally, an update on the ADU situation, especially as far as we paid to have ready build, ready permitting. Have those been used or not used? And don't take offense, Mr. City Attorney, but I hope that we are not paying both city attorney firm counsel and the people in Sacramento to come back with legislative updates, because we don't need to be shelling out $300 and $400 an hour for two different groups to do the same thing. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we've taken note of those reports. All three of those actually come back at different times for the City Council review: the green waste, the ADU policy, and certainly the bike share as that expands throughout our city. That's going to come back. So thank you.
Okay. Good evening, Council. My name is Scott Campbell. I live in the Acadia District. And first off, I'd like to give a shout out to the organizers of the Oktoberfest. They put on a fantastic event with great coordination and logistics. It was really good. I was there setting up, and I saw firsthand it was really cool. But I'm going to talk about some other issues tonight. In the Union Tribune last week, there was a nice article about how our city, which basically is our mayor and our city council, failed to support the rest of the county in fighting this density stuff. Proposition A, B, wait, no, I forget all the names. Failed to support it. Why? Was it money, prestige, the need to be right? I don't know. It's fundamentals, it violates our Constitution and a republic form of government. We just said that word just earlier in the Pledge of Allegiance to our republic, not democracy, republic. The council overrides the will of the majority. This is an ongoing story, but this is just one example. From that same article, 5 of the 18 cities disenfranchised the majority of the county. Well, ours was one of them, a smaller city. Why? You know what disenfranchised means? It means when your voice counts for squat. And that's happened too much in the city council and the candidates that are in front of us. 2 weeks ago, Mayor Blakespear said that congestion is not a public health. I disagree, and I think a lot of people will disagree. Congestion needs to increase accidents. More cars, more congestion, if anything, there's more accidents. Reduced access for emergency vehicles. We've already heard lots of incidents on the new streetscape of emergency vehicles failing to get through because of the traffic. Increased pollution. You know what? Electric vehicles pollute. They may even pollute more of that fine particulate matter because they weigh more, which means they degrade the road more. These are real issues, and they're measurable. Mental illness, people in congestion get aggravated. We don't need to go there. We have a gun safety law. I'll be talking about the number of guns pulled off later. Last week, one of the mayor candidates mentioned how great the Clark Avenue is going to be because it's so close to transit. I did a little research. That doesn't look very good. Half of the routes that go by on Saxony don't even go there. They go on El Camino Real. The people can go there once an hour or even less than an hour. That is not, I mean, you can call that transit, maybe by definition of all these legal stuff, but that is terrible. Now, we can fix that. And you have an opportunity because you probably weren't aware of that, and I apologize. It just goes on and on, these decisions of ill-informed. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Jeff Morris, followed by Mark Maville, and then John Bandy.
All right, council, I wasn't planning on coming tonight, but I was talking to a resident, and I got kind of angry at the things that he was saying about his treatment, so I just decided I feel like I want to kind of wing this. I'm Jeff Morris, I'm running for mayor of Encinitas, and this kind of governing that we've had the last 2 or 3 years, where I don't know any of you. I've actually talked to Joy more than any. I've never talked to you, and you tried to post up on me the other day. She's made up lies, she's made up lies. You made up a lie. I don't know what you guys, you trying to be like thugs or something? Trying to scare me? That's not gonna work. Walking up on me, Tony, at the middle of a cruise? I mean, seriously? Come on, at the cruise night? You sending a letter to Captain what's-his-face, Lopez, that I have mental issues and I shouldn't be supported by the San Diego Gun Association? Bro, I've had guns longer than you've been alive, man. This one right here saying I threatened her life. This one I threatened to feed her husband a rat sandwich. I threatened her and I stalked her. Seriously, what are you guys running here? This is like a ridiculous communistic style of governing. And then you guys get all like butthurt when someone gets mad about it. You guys never engage with us. You have no idea what we're feeling. You already had you were nice, Joy, and I like your husband, but you already had a predetermined notion about me. Maybe I have one about you guys, but you guys are attacking residents and you're trying to intimidate. That's got to stop, man. This Banana Republic stuff has to end. This community deserves respect. This community deserves to be listened to. We're not just idiots like living in Barstow. A lot of us worked very hard to get here, but you guys treat us like crap. The worst I've ever seen in my entire life. Queen Blakespear is going to build a thing over by her house as Lucadia has been waiting for how long? I mean, serious. You guys should all apologize. You should apologize for what you just sent out the other day. You should apologize for posting up on me at cruise night. I didn't do nothing to you. I want an apology from her for telling everybody I attacked her. And this one over here, same thing. Queen Bee, come on, man. You guys got to wake up, grow up. This is not 3rd grade. We still live in America. This is not North Korea yet. Treat us like decent people, and maybe we'll treat you guys the same way. That letter was not cool, dude. No reason to do it. And you don't even know me. So, you know, if you guys don't want these, I couldn't imagine having to sit up there and just get grilled all day. When I'm mayor, we're gonna have a party in this place. The people are gonna be happy. It's gonna be good. It's not gonna be you guys with frowns on your faces. So I'm gonna win this thing and get Encinitas back into shape.
Thank you. Next person?
Mark Maville, followed by John Bandy, and then Terry Ann Skelly.
Is the ticker starting? Just give me a second here. I want you to hear what I'm trying to say. How do you follow that, right? I don't know, but kind of feeling the same kind of vibe anyway. I've talked about the homeless situation, giving them too much rights and too many rights, the fentanyl abuse, the drug abuse, the underage drinking, the curfews that should be mandated, sticking your head in the sand and supporting Sea Bluff versus people that are dying out here on the street, and you just don't seem to care. That's unfortunate. It really is. He makes mayor, put a sheriff on the board, or, you know, a businessman or somebody that really is in touch with Encinitas. The speeding, trying to get the lights for the pickleball, you don't make any suggestions. I'm sure I got to go to planning for that. Those people want that, should have it. It's a phenomenon with the pickleball. And so is fentanyl, but don't want the fentanyl and the drug abuse and whatever the hell's going on out here on the street, but it's out of control, and it's still coming in. The stabbings are still happening. It went viral. You act like, oh, shit, give us some proof. And you said, give me some proof. Dude, just go down there on 10 o'clock on a Friday night. Get out of your house, drive the Tesla down there, and take a peek, and you'll see what the hell's going on. So the elections are coming, new people, new blood. I don't know, 6 years, that's enough for all kinds of corruption to develop. So 2 years, 1 year, that's enough. She's got, what, 6 years? That's way too much. And won't debate and go for a Senate? What are you hiding? Senate hearing or Senate seat? Got to pull your head out. Like he said, you got to grow up. I grew up a long time ago, so this is just kind of a joke, so.
Thank you.
All I got. I don't need to come back in here again. Not doing anything about anything anyway.
Hi, my name is John Bandy. I'm from Leucadia. I was here 2 weeks ago to bring the situation of the backstops over on the ball fields at Lake to your attention. And I said I'd come back with some champagne when you all got them put back. I have it ready. I have the glasses. I heard through the grapevine that something is being done. I heard that in the words of, in the parlance of Governor William J. Lepetamine, that the situation has received a 3-harump status, and that some of the staff pensioners are on it, and somebody needs to be congratulated if you all put some pressure on them, and I'd like to see it happen, and I have high hopes for it. I did hear one thing. By the way, I have nothing to do with San Diego Youth Softball. They didn't ask me to say that. I said last week that they're a wonderful bunch of dedicated, nice, kind individuals. Clearly, I wouldn't be involved in anything like that. I just have a daughter on the team. I believe they asked the city if they could use the park that's over the old hall property. And they were turned down because there were rules that that the league couldn't use it. And I found that interesting because I was here many years ago when the hall property was being considered, and I remember when all the residents south of the property in Cardiff were told there would be no access to the park through their neighborhood. And then after the park was built a couple years later, I understand we just had amnesia and we forgot about that, and we were going to put access through. So maybe the rules are there to protect the people in the area, but I think an exception could be made right now when we're missing the backstops that should have been maintained. So I would suggest, if you have enough present, to make a motion to direct the head of Parks and Recs to allow SDYS to use the sports park during this period, and only during this period, which I hope is very short, until they get the backstops built. And I understand that's moving forward, and congratulations, and thank you very much for your action on this.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. I believe that we got information in the last meeting that it is happening. I'd also point out that our Director of Parks and Recreation and Cultural Arts is sitting in the back row. Travis, could you touch base with the resident so that he's informed of what's going on there? So, thank you.
Next speaker is Terry Ann Skelly, followed by Mark Wilcox, Geraldine Kessler, and then Garvin Walsh.
Good evening. My name is Terry Ann Skelly. I'm a youth advocate. Last week, a speaker in public comment mentioned the North County Dab Walk in the Buena Vista Park in Vista 2 weeks ago. This walk was part of a national movement sponsored by Johnny Ambassadors, a nonprofit alliance of parents and youth organizations who are concerned about the harms of youth marijuana use. Yesterday, I received photos from all over the United States from other dab walks, including our North County walk. And I heard from parents across the nation regarding the adult children's recent spiral into psychosis due to use of highly concentrated THC marijuana products, particularly dabs. Dabs are a waxy residue, which is made of putting pulverized marijuana into a tube and running butane, propane, ethanol, or carbon dioxide through it, which separates the THC from the rest of the marijuana plant, creating a highly concentrated marijuana product that can be vaped or eaten. A doctor and treatment specialist responded to the parents that were there, says it's extremely common downward progression of these people using this, and they have very high concentrated THC dabs. What happens is initially, with the first use of a dab, there's a calming and pleasant high. As the frequency of dab use increases, there's a strange mix of anxiety and depression, and the young adults start having paranoid thoughts, which causes them more anxiety. And so they use more dabs to calm their anxiety. That works for a few hours, but then it gets worse. Young adults then become socially withdrawn because of anxiety, depression, and paranoia. But they use and use again to get that calmingness. The buildup of THC over time starts causing manic episodes, delusions, hallucinations, and paranoia, resulting in suicidal and homicidal thoughts and behavior. As the sale and advertising of these products become an unfortunate reality in Encinitas, it is important for parents and others that care about them to realize the potential of addiction and negative mental health outcomes. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you.
Good evening, City Council. My name is Mark Wilcox. I am a father and grandfather who is very committed in my volunteer work to support young people to prepare to make meaningful contributions to their families and others. I am concerned with the uptick in drug use, drug overdose, and mental health crises we are currently facing. Today, an article in the Union Tribune titled, "Health Officials Remind Parents of the Dangers of Teen Marijuana Use," featured relevant local information. Officials with Family Health Centers of San Diego, Scripps Mercy Hospital, and the county's Marijuana Prevention Initiative urged parents to talk to their children early and often about these risks. Marijuana was the primary substance used by youths ages 12 to 17 in San Diego County treatment programs in 2020 and 2021, according to county data. A North County parent spoke at the news conference and recalled that she found out her son, who is now 24, was smoking marijuana when he was a sophomore in high school. Since then, he has struggled with cannabis-induced psychosis, and she said, and has been hospitalized 4 times, twice on psychiatric holds. Dr. Ronit Leave, an emergency and addiction physician at Scripps Mercy Hospital, San Diego, reported that they treat patients with cannabis-induced conditions, including psychosis, every day. The problem is not just that marijuana is a risk factor for conditions like psychosis. Leave said, people with schizophrenia, psychosis, and bipolar disorder should not use THC because it would make their conditions worse. Marijuana can make medications used to treat mental health conditions less effective. The event was held to commemorate Suicide Prevention Month. According to the County Medical Examiner's Office, almost 40% of people who died of suicide under the age of 25 in 2020 tested positive for THC. The increasing strengths of marijuana's THC component are chilling in their present day and long-term consequences, especially to young adults and those who care about them. Thank you.
I would like to speak about the environmental nightmare staver Torrey Pacific potential housing project on Melba Road that is slated to take down a grove of mature Torrey pines, 173 trees, and 30 smaller trees and native shrubs, also demoing 3 beautiful historical homes built in 1938 and an older administration building, all based on the ill-fated density bonus law AB 2345. I want to remind you that my heritage tree application for the row tunnel tree canopy on Melba Road to be designated as heritage trees is still under review with the city. The process of going through this is a bit more involved than I had originally thought. Unlike the single Monterey cypress that was designated by a homeowner that lives behind it, my application includes a total of 8 trees, but as I have learned in the past few years that most things in government have many, many complex layers that the public is not always aware of, and we only see the impact of your decisions that you make and how they directly affect us, and sometimes with not the best outcomes that we had hoped for. But this application for the heritage tree seems quite simple at a glance. The trees all appear to be in the city right away. It should be a no-brainer for the city of Encinitas to determine its fate, seeing that Encinitas has been named a tree city since 2012. The maps that I have acquired through the county and old deeds look like the trees are all in the city right away. Even standing at the top of the street, it appears the trees are in the city right away. But unfortunately, this may not be the case because Torrey Pacific, also the owner of the property, got a different survey stating these 3 trees in the center of the row may be on private property, and the owner does not wish to designate those 3 trees as heritage. So I'm basically at a standstill with this application from what I see, unless our tight-knit community agrees to some convoluted Plan B of the development. Okay, so let me get this straight. You will save 3 trees on the row, but you're gonna take down 175 trees and 30 smaller trees and native shrub. But that doesn't work for the community. Those other beautiful 175 trees and 30 smaller trees have served the longtime tax-paying senior residents as a tree canopy for many years. Taking all those beautiful trees down goes against Encinitas' Climate Action Plan, and for that matter, the world's Climate Action Plan. I see the only answer is to preserve this sacred piece of land. The property is rich in Encinitas history, it's loaded with trees, it has an unofficial wildlife corridor, and those beautiful historical homes on the property. It's also adjacent to the last rural horse farm in Encinitas, Oakcrest Park and Middle School, and the park is home to an endangered gnatcatchers and also rare endangered plants such as the Encinitas baccharis, and along with the iconic Del Mar manzanitas. Please support the community and preservation of this property and preserve those beautiful trees. It's the right thing to do. I suggest we try to do this with soft green infrastructure funding, a bond measure, money from the state or federal government, and also community funding. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Final speaker is Garvin Walsh.
Good evening. I'm Garvin Walsh. I'm a resident of Encinitas. I like pizza. I'll bet some of you like pizza, and I'll bet most of the people in the audience here tonight like pizza. Maybe not everyone, but most. Imagine that one of you sitting on the dais, let's say Mr. Kranz, owned a pizza shop in town. It'd be good for him to have a city full of people who like pizza. He might want to educate people on all the wonderful and creative ways one could make pizza. Not just pepperoni or mushrooms or onions or margarita, but all the trendy new stuff as well. Imagine he wanted to have the city of Encinitas promote pizza, perhaps by declaring every other Friday Pizza Day. But you would never do that. You'd say, pizza's your thing, Tony. It's not the city's business. You'd tell him to figure out some other way to push pizza, even if you personally liked pizza a lot. Of course, I don't need to explain why. I'm sure you already know. As a councilman, he'd have a conflict of interest and it wouldn't be allowed. But this council has already done just that. It's already decided to promote the business of one of its sitting members, and it did so by a 4-to-1 vote. Only Mr. Kranz said no. Of course, it wasn't about pizza. It was about native plants, and it was Councilman Member Lyon's idea. That's right. Joy wants the city to have an ordinance to push native plants in permitted construction in Encinitas. Joy's in the landscape design business. She probably thinks native plants are a good idea, and she wants all of us to get on board. Now, native plants might be just like pizza, meaning something that nearly everyone on the dais and in this room likes. Maybe, maybe not. But just like Tony and the pizza idea, when Joy asked the city to push native plants, she was pushing an idea which would benefit her industry and her business. That's a no-no. It's a conflict of interest. And of course, it's against the law. I won't go into all the details here. I've already done that in a letter I sent each of you yesterday, and which is included in tonight's agenda packet. Anyway, I presume you already know the law. Maybe when the native plant idea came forward, you just forgot. Or maybe you thought it would be an opportunity for Joy to strut her stuff so the good people of Encinitas would elect her to office. Obviously, Joy thinks so because she's been campaigning on a native plant resolution as one of her 2 environmental initiatives on the council. But it was the wrong move for Joy and the wrong move for this council. It was improper, and all of you, except Mr. Kranz, said yes to it. You should all fess up to your mistake and terminate this plan ASAP. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.
That does conclude oral communications.
Well, thank you so much to all the public speakers tonight. We're going to move on to the agenda, posted agenda. So we have a report from closed session. We don't have anything to report since there was no closed session tonight. Are there any changes to the posted agenda?
There are no changes to the posted agenda. I will only note that the item 10A, which was on the agenda, and it only appeared on the agenda because it was legally noticed. And then moving to the consent calendar, items 8D and item 8E have been removed by the public.
All right. Well, let's move to the consent calendar, and I will entertain a motion on the remainder of the consent calendar.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, let's have a roll call.
Motion does carry unanimously with Blakespeare and Hinsey absent. That takes us to item 8D,
All right, let's
and the speaker is Mark Maville.
Mark, did you want a presentation?
No, I don't need any of that. There's plenty of public speaking, I don't need props. Okay, maybe a little taller than me. Apparently, you're gonna make e-bikes available to lower income people. I don't know if that's gonna perpetuate the homeless being able to move around and do what they do, stealing and all the things that they do that I guess there's mandates that allow them, even though they don't pay taxes, they don't work, they don't contribute, and still they're given all these rights. And all that does is bring on crime, clog the stream here, things that, I've had $5,000 worth of crap taken from me in the 7 or 8 months I've been trying to transition in. Wallet gone, tablets, you take your eye off something for a minute, boom, it's gone. Daughter doesn't want to come in until it's kind of gotten under control, but the sheriff, they're here tonight, been doing a fantastic job trying to get it under control, but something has to be done with that, and to give lower income people that are actually lower income and have a job and are working, that's one thing. But if you're just gonna hand it over to that sect that is a forgotten society anyway, with COVID being the priority for a long time, you're making a mistake. So whatever you're gonna do here, you gotta be careful how you're gonna do it, because that could, like I said, just bring on more problems, more issues. Now they're fluid. Now they can go from one place to another, Leucadia, Solana Beach here, and just start doing the same crap that they do, barking at the moon or yelling at families or yelling at me or threatening me or whatever, and I'm getting real tired of it. So to have that happen, patience has gotten real thin. So I don't know, adding another layer of rights to that, as long as they're working, I understand that. I'm a business owner, I do things, I've got jobs and all that. But, for those people that are deserving, yes, but just to haphazardly, here you go, here's an e-bike. No, I don't think that's right. So, can consider that. anything I've talked about in the last 4 or 5 times I've been here hasn't gotten on the docket, and there hasn't been any resolution. I don't expect anything to happen, because you're on your way out anyway, so maybe the next crew will do something about it, like yourself, sir.
Thank you so much for your feedback. I'm going to ask for a brief report because I think that that there's a bit of confusion as to this incentive program. So if you can give us a brief report on this, please.
Sure, yes. So the item before you tonight is to execute a memorandum of understanding with the organization called Pedal Ahead. They've received grant funding to implement an e-bike incentive program. And what they would like cooperation from the city to do is to promote the program. The program will be run completely by Pedal Ahead. And what the city would do is just advertise the opportunity for applicants to be able to be selected to be a part of the program and receive an e-bike as part of the program. There's requirements in the program on what qualifies you, and one of the things they're looking to promote is use of electric bikes by low-income folks. And there's the Pedal Ahead would be the organization that goes through that process based on their grant program and issuing the bikes. I can continue further or answer
No, I
any
think that's
questions you have.
sufficient. Kathy, do we have any public comment on this item beyond the one? All right, perfect. Any questions on this item by my colleagues? Sorry, I didn't see anybody's name on there. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Councilmember Kranz.
Thank you. I think that this is a fantastic program. Mobility is one of the most important parts of getting ahead in life. And so this opportunity to have an e-bike and become more mobile is good for people who are on the low-income side of the spectrum. And so I think it really is in the best interest of the community to embrace programs like this. So I'm appreciative of the opportunity. I tend to look at the positive side of people as much as I can, and I'm not worried about any kind of willy-nilly distribution of the bikes. People who, we can manage this. And the opportunity for people to have this mobility is fantastic. I personally am selling a car because I have an e-bike now. We live in the greatest place on earth, and it's especially useful to have a community like ours for bicycling because it doesn't rain very much. This mode shifting takes cars off the road. Again, it makes opportunities for people a little easier to get to. And so I am fully supportive of this program and would move approval.
Perfect. Councilmember Lyons.
Yes, I'd just like to emphasize the reduction of greenhouse gases, which is really valuable to our climate action plan, and also that the Pedal Ahead group has a good reputation. They're a good fit for us, and really specifically, this program is targeted to low-income individuals or families earning less than $49,000 annually, and that's how we'll move forward with it. So I'm in favor of it, and I'll second that motion.
Great. Yeah, I agree that this is an important program, especially as we're making our roads as safe as possible to try to decrease some of that traffic congestion that we're seeing out there. Promoting bikes and e-bikes, especially for those that are low income, as the gas prices have gone up and they've been hit the deepest and hardest. Promoting an incentive program like this makes a lot of sense, and it fits really well with our city. So we have a motion and a second, and we will vote.
Motion carries unanimously with Blakespear and Hinsey absent. That takes us to item 8E.
May I ask that we also have a staff report on this item?
And we do have several speakers on that item.
Good evening. Can you hear me now? Okay. Good evening, Council. City Manager, City Attorney. My name is Matt Wadowski, Principal Engineer here at the City of Encinitas. So the item we have before us is a grant application from the Federal Railroad Administration for a crossing we have. And as of now, the only project that we have that qualifies for this is the Verde Undercrossing project here in the city. So what we wanted to do now is give a quick introduction and a history of this project, of where it has been and why we want to apply for this, request your permission to apply for this grant. The Verde Undercrossing project, as you can see, located at Verde Avenue and List Avenue here, just north of Montgomery Avenue, in between Birmingham and Santa Fe Drive along San Alejo. And the footprint actually involves an undercrossing of the railroad and a crossing of the 101. So that's the location. A quick concept, as you can see, it shows sidewalk coming down to the crossing from both streets as it's connected with the coastal rail trail here, an undercrossing under the railroad tracks, and then we have a pedestrian crossing over the 101. So the design and history. Back in 2004, there was a study done for 4 rail locations in the city of Encinitas. And so studies have been going on for a while here about this, and Montgomery Avenue was one of the locations identified. So back in 2015, City Council awarded a contract for design to begin on a Montgomery at-grade crossing. So that's when the design has started on this project. As we were going on in this area of Cardiff, we've had double tracking, we've had the coastal rail trail go on, and we also had the quiet zone at the Chesterfield intersection. So in 2017, studies were being looked at, should we move this undercrossing and move this at-grade crossing, and that was where we determined it would be moved to Verde as an undercrossing instead of an at-grade crossing at Montgomery. So we held citizen participation plans for this in 2018 and again in 2021. And right now the design is at 100%. As of to date, we've expended about $2 million with all the design, environmental documentation, and the community outreach, as we've said. Right now, we want to just finalize the design and get the coastal development and city permits. There's not very much funding at all available, and our estimate now says this total cost for construction would be $15 million. So the remaining steps, all we have to do, at least in the design phase, we need to get the license agreement from NCTD. We held a meeting with the California Public Utility Commission back in 2019, but we need that final environmental document in order to submit the application to the CPUC. And as we said, we're hoping in the next few months to get this on Planning Commission to finalize permitting and the design. We also need to identify construction funding. We have applied for grants on this project. Back in 2018 and 2019, the CRISI grants that we did apply for, unfortunately, we were not successful, but we have tried. And right now, as we said, we are pursuing this Federal Railroad Association grant, which came about. Big thing, it came about last year when the Congress passed the bipartisan infrastructure bill and it was signed into law. So as was stated in the staff report, there's $573 million available. Eligible projects, like we said, grade separation, track relocation. There is a match of 20% minimum. The big thing on this is project readiness is a big criteria of the grant. So when we looked at the evaluation of safety, economic development, equity, this location does make a decent amount of these. And again, the big thing that is true is right now, this is the only eligible project here in the city for this grant. So that's where we are. That's why we've come to this, and we're just asking for your approval to pursue this grant to get construction funding.
Any questions for staff? Well, let's move to public comment. How many public comment?
We have about 9.
All right, let's.
Call you 3 at a time, and just a reminder, you do have 3 minutes. Ellen Burr, followed by Michael Blobe, and then Jeff Morris.
Good evening. I hate to disagree, but we could have applied for a planning engineering grant for Leucadia through this program. But we didn't. Somebody chose not to do that, but you could have done that. I'm not going to talk about the inequities, the fiscal irresponsibility I live in Cardiff, so I'm persona non grata, but I am fiscally conservative, and the idea that we would spend $15 to $20 million on something that is going to impact so few people is absurd. And I'm furthermore very concerned that if we were serious about this, it is 1 week away when this grant was due in Washington, in hand, totally. Now it has been extended for 1 more week, really 4 days, because we've got a federal holiday in between. But this is, if we were serious about doing this, we should have gotten somebody on board to be working on this back in August, or maybe just a month ago in September. I don't know what you think. You get what you pay for, and I don't know what kind of consultant you're going to get to chaperone this through and get it approved for $27,000. That is ridiculous. I don't think you could get anybody to make copies of everything and deliver it for that. But more than that, I am upset that this is probably not going to get past the first level because of all of the things that it says you would be looking at. And there is no huge equality, equity, transportation, safety value to this expense. It is a waste of my tax money, not just Encinitas, but the whole country. And unless the city or someone on the council has received outside, inside information that the wheels are greased and this is going to happen, we will just be putting a black mark on any further attempts we make to get future grants or funding through this organization. So I would hate for that to happen because we are just trying to tick a box so that people can say, we tried, we failed, it didn't pass, we didn't get it. That would be really, really bad. So, please don't do this because the chances of it passing are so de minimis, but the chances of it giving us a really black mark is much higher. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Michael Blobe, candidate for mayor, and I just recently read about the Verde Crossing, and I was actually surprised. Why was I surprised? Because for decades, people in Leucadia have been asking for a crossing, and they've fallen on deaf ears. For decades, you've had decades to come up with a plan for a crossing, for an application, for a grant, and it's fallen on deaf ears. Instead, not only do you not fight the fence like Delmar is, but you paid to actually build the fence in our neighborhood. And all you're doing is you're fencing off senior citizens and people who are trying to go and shop at their market, and in the name of suicides. I'm sorry, but if somebody's going to commit suicide, they're going to jump that fence in 1 second. The fence has nothing to do with suicides. Okay, I know one man in that area. I've been canvassing the area a lot in the last few days. There's one man from Hillcrest. He's a senior citizen. He used to cross the tracks with his cane to go to Just Peachy to buy his groceries, the only source of him being able to shop. So now what does he have to do? He has to use his electric wheelchair, go all the way up to Leucadia Boulevard, over the tracks, all the way back to Just Peachy, and all the way back home, and hope that his wheelchair doesn't run out of batteries. Why? Because Leucadia is the only safe crossing in that area for its residents, Leucadia Boulevard. You can't cross on La Costa. There's no sidewalk. There's no curve. If you try to cross there, you're stuck between two bluffs, and you're going to get hit by a car, okay? So we're totally ignoring Leucadia, and instead we're focusing on building a crossing, the crossing to nowhere. There's nothing, Verde, you're building a crossing to a sidewalk. You're building a crossing to the 101. There's no businesses, there's no resources on the other side. And in addition, Leucadia, there's your density. There are more residents in Leucadia. per capita, per mile, per block, whatever you want to put it, than there is where you're going to put it at Verde. So what is your excuse to keep continuously ignoring Leucadia and continuously putting crossings in all other sectors of the city when Leucadia is the one that needs it the most? Leucadia has the most people in that area. Leucadia only basically has one crossing to cross the tracks safely, and instead we're putting it in places that lead to nowhere. It doesn't make sense. We need more competent decisions made, and it's time for a change. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Jeff Morris, followed by Rob Fleener, and then Mary Schabel.
All right, here we go again. I'm Jeff Morris. I want to be running for mayor of Encinitas, and from what I've been reading, the job of the mayor and the city council is a fiduciary obligation to the residents. Everything that I hear you guys say is an obligation for you guys. This Verde project is by Catherine's place, just like the quiet crossing. So we can clearly see that we are not your fiduciary obligation. We're just following whatever you guys say. On October 17, 2018, Tony, you declared a crisis so that you can, a shelter crisis, so you can use the police powers to avoid the residents' voices, from what I understand. That's why I haven't had a voice in 3 years. I'm not actually trying to get anything out of this. I'm trying to protect my town. Leucadia has waited a long time for these crossings. The idea that you're going to put Catherine in front of us, in front of them, is ridiculous. They have so much space and you just fence them off without crossing. I mean, who thought of that idea? You have to think about the residents. You have to think about their needs. Every community needs to be treated equal. You guys are no better than us. You know, you guys are just the same. You guys should not be prima donnas. When I'm in that seat, I'm going to knock that seat down to nothing. We're going to sit here and listen to the residents. We're going to do what they want, and we're going to stop taking care of the elitist city council. So it's just disappointing. You've got businesses. I'm talking to these people in Leucadia. They used to walk 2 minutes across the street. Now they got to go all the way to Leucadia or all the way to La Costa to come around in the traffic in the new one-lane road. Come on. I mean, what kind of logic is that? And as a surfer, if I lived right there, I'd be freaking out. None of the stuff that I'm looking at is for me. It's for my community. I care. I care about Elimination, Cardiff, Encinitas, Leucadia, but you guys don't. What is this thing that you're going to do, plants for you? I mean, this is not for you, Joy. This is for us, for these guys. This is what we're here for, to take care of our community. You guys aren't doing it. So I'm losing a lot of surf time, and this is not what I wanted to do. But I have to fight for my town because you guys have some freaking goals that you want to push this North Korean thing. You don't like my Kim Jong-un thing? Well, shit, that's what you're doing, bro. You didn't like the picture? You don't. That's what you're doing. You are treating us like we live in North Korea. We don't have any rights. You guys don't listen. I mean, come on, guys, seriously. You know, we have a right to be mad, and you guys are thinking about yourselves. Think about these people, okay? That's where you're making the mistake, and when you go home and cry at night, just don't blame us. That's because you guys aren't doing your job. Go look at the directions for being on the city council.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor and council members, as a 44-year resident of Leucadia and having been asking for a safe rail crossing for over 3 decades, I'm asking you not to fund this Verde Crossing. This decision is so irresponsible for many reasons. In a city that talks of wanting to be equitable, this decision is so far removed from that. How do you justify yet another safe rail crossing in the rail corridor's wealthiest community, one that already has 2 safe rail crossings, a quiet zone, and a rail trail, when the most densely populated, most diverse socioeconomic, and the most bifurcated area, Northwest Leucadia, has not one safe rail crossing, let alone a quiet zone or a rail trail. Where is the equity? I thought the job of the council was to make decisions for the greater needs of our community, not just for the wealthiest neighborhoods. There's no way a Verde Crossing is a greater need. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker is Mary Schobel, followed by Dolores Lodel, and then Scott Campbell.
Hi, I've been a resident of Northwest Leucadia for, I think, 26 years now, and I think ever since we moved in, I heard about that there was going to be a crossing, and you get your hopes up. We have kids that have been born and raised, and they're gone now, out of the area, and we still don't have a rail crossing in Northwest Leucadia. I am asking, please, do prioritize our needs in Leucadia and build us a crossing before a second one is built in Cardiff. That's just ludicrous in my mind. We have 1.3 miles from La Costa to Leucadia Boulevard with no crossing. We only have a fence to divide us and not give us easy access to the beach and businesses. We do not have a continuous sidewalk along Vulcan, making it unsafe to walk to our beaches. If you live between La Costa and Leucadia Boulevard, Cardiff has a beautiful rail trail and these beautiful undercrossings. Where is the equity in this? Maybe you guys look at, we have apartments in our area. I don't know. It's time to wake up and give us some equity in Leucadia. We're 3 times the population in our rail corridor than Cardiff has, and we still don't have a crossing. Leucadia seems to be the last to get improvements in Encinitas. Streetscape is happening, guess what? Last in Northwest Leucadia. Parking improvements that were made along Vulcan did not happen in the northern section until much later, because guess what? They ran out of money. Oh my goodness. Our crossing at La Costa Boulevard is very narrow and unsafe for bikes. I urge you to vote no on the Verde Crossing, which gives Cardiff their second crossing, and instead give us in Leucadia our first crossing. We are well deserving, and I cannot support any council members who vote in favor of the Verde Crossing. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, Deputy Mayor and council members. I must admit, I'm rather upset to be here tonight speaking on this topic. I've written numerous letters and spoken on this topic for decades. I'm sure you're all aware I reside in Northwest Leucadia. I'm a supporter of a rail crossing in our area, for which I have been advocating for almost 2 decades. I've been really struggling to know what else to say on this topic, because to me, this issue is clear as it gets. The fact that we're even here discussing putting money and resources towards a crossing at Verde versus Northwest Leucadia completely baffles me. I could spout a lot of facts and figures, but frankly, all anyone needs to do is drive to both locations, take a look around for about 1 minute, and you can figure out where the need is. It is so painfully obvious. I think then that is what makes me the angriest. That you are willing to spend our tax dollars and the city resources to move forward with a crossing to nowhere, as I like to call it, rather than a crossing that is so obviously most desperately needed. I'm so tired of the situation. I have supported and voted for you, Tony, even though I didn't always feel that you were advocating for us as best as you could. I've supported Catherine for mayor. However, I'm so completely fed up with this situation. If this passes tonight and you vote for this, I will either vote for the opposition or I'm going to sit the next one out, as I cannot in good conscience vote for anyone who lacks common sense judgment and who will waste my hard-earned tax dollars. Please do the right thing. spend our city's funds responsibly, make decisions that benefit the greater good of our city, and keep our citizens safe. Advocate for projects that promote greater adhesion, economic development, and return for the entire city, and ensure greater reduction of greenhouse gases. Project Verde is not the project that meets these goals. It's an $18 million project allowing a limited number of people access to the beach. That's it. Where's the equity? Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next is Scott Campbell, followed by Watanya Tucker, and then Julie Thunder.
Hello, my name is Scott Campbell. I live in the Acadia District. And I urge the council to vote no on Measure E, 8E. A lot of people have talked about equity and density. Let's do some math on property taxes. The property taxes in Acadia we're not getting our good value. This decision and many other decisions by the council are actually divisive. They're pitting community versus community, and I don't think that's what we want from anybody here. I am heartened to see the support from the Acadia community. I hope you keep it up. There's a lack of access across the train tracks. It's dividing the community. Say I live on the west side. I can't get to Acadia Oaks Park. Nobody's talked about that. Mobility to the park. This Verde undercrossing prioritizes recreational use over commerce and transit access. There's no businesses on the other side of there. I don't even think there's a bus stop. Anywhere in Acadia, there are businesses and bus stops. I think that's a general plan item. I should have done more research on that. What this is really doing is we're pitting businesses versus surfers. You know who's going to use this undercrossing? Out-of-town surfers. I'm going to start using this. Yeah, surfers at Pipes. I'm going to go there. I never go there. You're going to start seeing me. You're not going to like it at all. You know. Timing. Why did we wait until 1 week is left on the grant application to bring this up? 1 week left. Why can't we do another one? Let's get 2. Let's try for 2. That's the big win. That's my offering to you guys. That's your winning out. Do 2. I don't care how much has been funded. The Acadia has been going on since LA Times article I read about today, 1989, talking about blight. Remember the blight article? We should have gone for the blight. We would probably be done with all this now. We really should. Okay, so number 4. Okay, let's just keep going. I was really sad that the Cardiff Main Street wrote letters in support of this, and they are copy-pasted. The highest level people could only copy-paste. That really doesn't show quality support, people. I'm sorry. It really doesn't. I cross this fence, but not very often anymore. And you know why? I'm too conflicted. Should I save the world by driving less? Should I risk my life on Lacosta Avenue in Acadia? And paint on Vulcan does not make me feel safer. I'm sorry, paint on the road does not make anybody feel safer. I choose to not go, or I jump the fence. Sorry, that's what we do. This whole thing gives the appearance that the person or people, I hope that's the correct pronoun, that propose this, my only logical conclusion is they're doing this for selfish reasons of convenience as opposed to reasons of necessity. Once again, please vote no on this and support the Acadia undercrossing. Once again, decades. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Watanya Tucker. I'm a Cardiff resident. I found out about the Verde Crossing this morning, so I'm a little late to the party. And I haven't done all of the research that you all did. One of the things that occurs to me is, one, a lot of my neighbors in Cardiff don't know about the Verde Crossing. And if they did know about the Verde Crossing, they would probably tell you to move on down the road. There's no reason for a Verde Crossing. There is a reason for me to want to get from one side of Leucadia to the other side of Leucadia. One of those reasons is to shop, to more positively impact the businesses in the Leucadia 101 Main Street. The other reason is to surf. which I do, and I surf a lot in Leucadia. And I would love to park at my friend's house and be able to walk down the street and go under a safe undercrossing. I think one of the things also that occurs to me is just because we've been studying this since 2004, and we have an opportunity now to do it, and I appreciate staff's time, and I'm sure you've done the best job that you can do. I don't agree with people who say you get what you pay for and that you've somehow nefariously waited for a week to do this. I think you're probably just taking an opportunity that the government's giving to us to have a grant application approved. But just because we can doesn't mean we should, and it doesn't mean it's the right fit for our city. Leucadia needs a crossing. Leucadia has always needed a crossing. I've been here 21 years in Cardiff, and Leucadia has always needed a crossing. And so I would just encourage you, I know a lot of my Leucadia neighbors who are here tonight and some of those who aren't here tonight, this is really a slight on them. And it's another, I think Dolores said it best, just really frustrated and continue to be frustrated. Again, just because we can't doesn't mean we should, and doesn't mean it's the right time or the right place. And maybe we can take some of those resources and put it into a better study or refocus our studies to the Leucadia area. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I really like these. You're right. Hi, I'm Julie Thunder, candidate for City Council to represent Cardiff. So you would think I would be here to advocate for this crossing and do everything you can to give it to us. We were promised it when the rail trail was put in. There are candidates who aren't present tonight who campaigned and told neighbors door to door that they would get a crossing with the rail trail, which was false. But I'm not here to advocate for that crossing. I'm here to say, would you please, the three of you, you put on your reasoning caps and not your get the federal money caps. Because this constant push by this council to grab at the federal money because it's there and it's available for the taking is wrong. That money is still our dollars. You're still spending tax dollars on projects that are often not ready to be built. And you're rushing this just because the money's there. Does Cardiff need a crossing? 100%. Does Cardiff deserve a crossing? 100%. Has Leucadia been waiting longer than we have? You bet your dime. And you need to think about this. If the three of you vote on a $15 million project with 2 council members absent, you're going to have a problem. That is not good procedure, and it's not going to look good to anybody. And 2 of the 3 of you are running for election. This is not smart, and I hope you'll table it now for a long time. Also, the Cardiff Crossing, the design, would you be able to put up that design again? The actual schematic of what the Cardiff Crossing would look like? I'm going to talk to the people in the room because some of you weren't on council when this happened. Nobody in Cardiff liked that. We all asked for utilitarian crossings. If you would stop trying to build the Taj Mahal of railroad crossings and bring it down in scale to something more utilitarian, you could have had 5 crossings by now. And this federal grant money would be all over you. So I'm going to ask you to shelve this and do it with pride. And announce to your email lists that this wasn't the right time and we are rushing it and we're going to take it back a little bit. But if anybody wants to use this recording against me in my campaign and say I didn't advocate for Cardiff, remember, I've been advocating for this crossing for a very, very long time. But it's still not the right time, and it's not the right method, and we don't want a Taj Mahal and another tourist attraction in Cardiff.
Thank you so much.
That does conclude public speakers on this item.
All right, well, thank you so much for your feedback and your public comment and your, it's not easy, and I understand that. And I know that we've been standing together on this issue for a while, especially having a rail corridor that bisects our city. I'm going to go to my colleagues first and let them express their views on this issue, and then I'll come back and wrap it up. Councilmember Lyons.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have a few questions for staff, and I think I'll start with those for some clarification, if I could. Mr. Wadowski, could we respond to the question about time frame for the consultant to do the grant? And your thoughts on that, the question that was brought up by the public?
So we have departmental budget to prepare grant applications throughout the year as various grant opportunities come up. So the grant application is already being prepared. It's almost complete. So the question is whether this is an opportunity that City Council would like to take to leverage the funding we've already spent in order to obtain a large amount of federal funding. So the grant application has been underway for a while.
Oh, so clarify then, if you would. Not trying to put you on the spot, but we have the funds for the grant. We don't need additional funds allocated.
That's correct. So the ask is whether the City Council would like us to submit this grant application, which would require a 20% match. So in the future, we would need to be able to have the city put up approximately $3 million if we got a $15 million grant.
So let me just clarify to make sure I understood that. This request is not so much for the authorization to write the grant and to fund the writing of the grant. It's for the authorization to pursue the grant because of the matching funds.
Right,
correct. Yeah. There were some aspects of the staff report that weren't quite clear. I just want to give that feedback. This may be one of those.
Okay, thank you.
Another question is, I feel as though the two projects that are being discussed, Verde versus Leucadia, are apples and oranges. And part of that reason I feel that way is we're already funding, and we prioritized Leucadia in our budget last year. We are already funding our study, and we're already funding a study of La Costa, and we're already funding a quiet zone study in Leucadia. Am I correct about those things?
That's correct.
Is there anything else we need money for right now? Or is our money in Leucadia, is that going to be later? Is that what the next step is?
Most of these federal grant projects require a project to be shovel-ready, so to have your design completed, and we're not there yet on the quiet zone or at the Leucadia at-grade crossing. We're working towards that. It'll probably be another 2 years or so before we'll be ready to apply for grant funding, because we need to get environmental clearance, we need to get CPUC clearance, we need to have community input meetings, we need to get NCTD permission. So it's a process to get to a design that's acceptable to all the parties that need to give us our approvals.
And you've been an engineer for a long time and dealt with lots of agencies and environmental approvals, and your opinion on the time frame is based on your knowledge in the industry?
That's correct.
Another question that has to do with what's typical. So when we've got the budget of $15 million for Verde, we've got Birmingham, it's 10 to 12 million. We have projects like that are infrastructure projects that are large. When we get ready then to be shovel ready on Leucadia, that likely will be a very large budget project, or two projects, or three projects too. How will we fund that at that time? Will we then at that time seek grants just like what we're doing right now?
Absolutely.
Is it then typical for us, when we have a big project like this, the only way to move it forward to construction is to get grant funding from other agencies?
That has been our experience. That's how we built El Portal, and that we took out a loan for the next phase of Leucadia Streetscape, but for the very large infrastructure projects, we need to find a funding partner.
So we have on our priority list for funding projects that we've committed to over, in this case, a decade. And we brought it all the way up. We've spent $2 million to get it to where it is. We've made promises along the way. And we're at this juncture where we can't move forward without grant funding. We just can't afford it. We probably have $1 to $2 million a year in infrastructure money that we can spend, and hopefully that will get better. I think our revenues are increasing here, and we're really fiscally a very responsible city, so we're doing all the right things. But we're never going to have 10 million. So the only way to fund any project in the future, even if we're not talking about Verde, is that we need to go get grants.
That's correct.
So I think what we're talking about, and I'm belaboring this because it's the reality of us improving our infrastructure, which week after week you come before us and say we really need to improve our infrastructure. How are we going to do that without grants? So we've been fortunate that we've been able to fund prior projects because of our partners at Sandag and at Caltrans. And this is what's leveraged our ability to do some of the important infrastructure that we have appreciated. I'm making a point that if we're saying we don't need grant money, then we're just saying we're never going to afford infrastructure. So I just want to make that point. I think I'll have more to say in a minute, but I think I'll hand it off now.
Councilmember Krantz?
Yes, thank you. And I too appreciate all the feedback. We've gotten a ton of emails, mostly opposed, some in support of. I think one of the questions that I have is, what happened with the Chrissy grants? Did you get any feedback from the federal government on that? What makes us think that there's going to be any different outcome with this project, this application?
So the Chrissy grant is more focused on transporting goods and the movement of goods and services on the rail lines. This one is entitled a Railroad Crossing Elimination Program. So it's looking for those places where we can close road closures, road crossings of a rail line, or pedestrian crossings of a rail line. So this grant program is more tailored to the Verde project, and we're better positioned to compete for it.
So this conversation about the crossings in Leucadia is one I'm very familiar with. As a board member of the Leucadia Town Council, I spent a lot of time at events gathering signatures on a petition to build at-grade crossings in Leucadia. I was at a meeting here in 2008 where we were advocating for the city of Encinitas to join the city of San Clemente in a lawsuit against the BNSF regarding at-grade crossings. A long history. I think that one of the things we need to keep in mind is that this is not a zero-sum game. This is not an either-or situation, that we are pursuing the four locations for pedestrian crossings that were studied back in, I believe the presentation said 2004.
Yes, that's correct.
And so it's a question that I would have for the city manager: if we were successful with a grant and there was a $3 million match that was required, is that something we would have to steal from what we're doing in Leucadia in order to provide the match?
No, you would not have to take anything from any of the projects that we already have in the mix for the Leucadia crossings and the studies. One thing that the council had asked this week, but we don't have from the federal government, is oftentimes these grants get released, but we actually really don't even have the timing of when our $3 million would be required. It could be in tranches over 2 years, over 4 years, over 5 years. We feel comfortable that with our growth in our revenues and sales tax transient occupancy tax and property taxes, that's something that we would be able to bring forward without changing our capital improvement plan.
So one of the speakers, I think it was Julie, suggested that in this particular case, we were approving this project, and in reality, we're not approving the project. We're approving applying for a grant, and that the outcome of that application, if we are successful, will trigger the need to make, for this board, this council, to make additional decisions, number one, about how to manage the match, and number two, about whether to even accept the grant and move forward. I assume that would be a future decision, not a decision that we're making tonight.
That's correct. We would be bringing forth, when we accept a grant, we also bring forth we haven't been as successful with the grants, which is why you probably don't recall having to go through that process, but we are hopeful that we'll receive this. The one thing that I would say that I think is missing a little bit from the presentation, again, not as a criticism to our city engineer, is that there's been a lot of talk about the infrastructure money. This is literally the first one that we have a project that actually meets the criteria. It's very complicated, all of these grant applications, so while I respect the timing discussion, and it is unfortunate in terms of the work that we're trying to do in Leucadia, I can't guarantee, for example, if you say, well, we'll wait until the next opportunity, there may never be another opportunity that meets these exact criteria for this particular type of crossing. That's why we, as a staff, would like to pursue these grants and be able to give you opportunities to look at the funding. So
yes, the other issue is that, if it were simply a matter of being fiscally conservative and not applying for the grant because we think that it's a waste of taxpayer money, our project wouldn't be in the running, but I assure you that every $1 million is going to be allocated to some other project. There will probably be a long list of projects, many more dollars than the federal government has, so somebody's going to get it. So just because we are magnanimous and turn down the opportunity for the $12 million isn't going to save that money. I would also point out that the reality is that we need more crossings.
Excuse me. We've respected you when you came up to speak. The city council is now, excuse me, sir, we are now deliberating, and if there are any other interruptions, well, thank you, sir. All right, we're going to bring it back to the city council. All right.
And as a matter of fact, the design of the Verde Crossing is actually ADA compliant, so I'm not sure what was too fancy about it. Maybe you don't like the swirls in the concrete work, but the flat work is, we can make that plain if the people of Cardiff want just a plain concrete walkway. But in the meantime, the reality is that this stretch of Cardiff wasn't. The Coastal Rail Trail and the crossing at Santa Fe, the Santa Fe crossing was done. That was the first one that was done. I'm not sure if that's the crossing that you're counting as a Cardiff crossing. It's technically on the border of Cardiff and Old Encinitas. So there is a need for a crossing in between. I get that this is only a crossing to the beach, but one of the things that I hear most often about the fence in North Leucadia is that people want their beach access. And so, the same thing that was the point that was made in Cardiff when the Coastal Rail Trail was put on the east side, and that people wanted access to the beach. And we committed to providing that. I would point out that the cost of the Coastal Rail Trail and the work at Chesterfield and the double tracking was all borne by Sandag. So it wasn't that the city of Encinitas was favoring Cardiff. It was that there was a project that was required as part of the freeway widening project that Sandag paid for all of that work down there. So it was an opportunity for the city to be the beneficiary of the Transnet tax that we all paid into and never received any any money from. We have a problem in Leucadia because there are some real challenges with undercrossings between Leucadia Boulevard and La Costa Avenue. And quite likely, if we can't get at-grade crossings in Leucadia, they're going to have to be overhead crossings. And that would really be unfortunate because at the point of the elevation of those tracks, that means you're going to be 50 feet above Highway 101 when you get to the west side. So we're going to continue on this track, looking at the design, the study, safety study, and advocating for at-grade crossings in Leucadia. And I don't think that this grant is going to get in the way of that process at all. I will personally commit to doing everything possible to keep that on moving forward in the most expeditious fashion possible. It took us longer than I thought to get it moving, but it is moving now. So it's my expectation is that we'll be able to keep it moving. Thank you.
All right. So since both my colleagues have spoken, I'm going to say a few words, which is that I do absolutely get the frustration that a lot of folks on the Northwest kind of feel having no safe crossing and lots of areas of that part of our city that have not been improved for a while. I've had an opportunity to meet with a lot of folks in the Northwest, and they've shown me some of the things that they're dealing with on a daily basis. And you know, the historical kind of you know, lack of investment in that part of the city is concerning to me. But I'll tell you that as a council member up here now for almost 6 years, I feel like I've helped make a difference in that part of the city. We've been investing in that part of the city. We've been investing millions of dollars, and I feel like based on our discussion with staff that there's a pathway forward in terms of planning for the safe crossings across that rail corridor. We've prioritized. We have a whole plan together that we've spent a lot of countless hours on, countless dollars on, and now it's basically in a process where we're doing environmental analysis and working with the regulatory agencies that approve these type of crossings. And so as you've heard from the staff, we're moving forward on it. It may not be as fast as one would want if they live in that area. They have to walk, you know, miles across, you know, around a track to get to the other side of the road, which is very disappointing. But I think we've done a lot, and I think a lot more is going to be coming in the future. I think the way that we use that corridor is much better than the way that we've used in the past. But we also have an obligation to look at the entire city. Now, with the Verde Crossing, now this is a conversation as we put the dates up on the board there. I mean, I've been engaged in this conversation from the beginning, so some of those conversations are real to me, and I know that having worked with, when I was on the Parks and Rec Commission, that we were actually talking about the Montgomery and the Verde Crossing. We spent $2 million on that design so far. It is money that is invested in putting forth a very important, useful project that's going to improve the safety and mobility of our city. Now we have an opportunity, which we've had in the past, and we've never been able to actually get it sewn up. But we now have an opportunity, a real opportunity, to apply for a grant that's going to bring money to us, that's going to basically finish this project. That means that project is off of the capital improvement program list. It means that other programs that are in the queue, when they're shovel ready, which we're committed to making projects in the Northwest in every part of our city that improves the safety of our roads, the mobility of our city, we're committed to putting those projects there and moving them forward. So I think that it's abundantly clear to me that the only direction here is to move forward and to apply for this grant. If there was any other project that we had the ability to do this on, we would do this. This is the most prudent thing to do for the taxpayers, is to apply for a grant that would basically move this project forward. I respect your decisions, everything that you've said. My goal and my job here is to look at the interest of the entire city. The entire city. That is my role as a city council member, as deputy mayor, to look at the interest of the entire city, balance those interests, and I'm telling you that from this point of view, it is clear cut The interest of this city is to apply for a grant that's going to basically bring in millions of dollars for our taxpayers to improve the quality of life in this city, to improve the public safety, improve the mobility. But I'm also committed, I know the city council is committed to making sure that we're doing more in the Northwest and that the plans that we have are not just plans shelved on the bookcase, but become reality. And I think that you've heard in the past that we're moving forward with that. It takes time, it takes process, just like this project has been in the queue for a while. So thank you so much. I'm going to move to my fellow Councilmember Lyons, who also has another point.
I do, thank you. I didn't finish my comments. I was happy to hear what my colleagues had to say. But when a year ago, I think it was, when my colleague, Councilmember Crayons, brought to us his support for the at-grade crossing, and you had done a good amount of outreach in the community, and that was what you brought forward, and the community was in support. When that happened, and I saw such a great support behind at-grade crossings, because there's so many new opportunities, then it's not just one, you get several crossings. I said, I want to support you in doing that. So I stood behind Tony and Councilmember Hinsey and my colleagues to bring that forward and move funding to prioritize it. One thing I want to do for our community is really help build trust back. Because even though we've committed, we are solidly committed to Leucadia and to these crossings. I know it feels like it's too late, but we're doing it. And I'm firmly, firmly, firmly behind it. And I want to make sure we do what we need to do to build your trust and to bring this forward and to say, we're going to make it happen. Because at so many junctures along the way, things can happen. I just want to say, us standing by our commitment to the Verde overpass is very similar to that. We want to have the fortitude to bring Leucadia forward so that we can make sure it happens for you and for the community. And I just want you to know you have my full support. And I don't know what else to say about that. I know that you're concerned, and you know this choice today is not in conflict with the funding for Leucadia. We're still putting it as our top priority. So just wanted to re-emphasize that point because I think it's important for us to stand by our commitments to you, and I promise I am.
All right, not seeing any more, anybody else in the queue. I'm going to basically move that we authorize the city manager to apply for this grant through the FRA, and we'll have our fingers crossed that we actually are successful in this grant. So thank you so much. Do we have a second on this motion?
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second. Let's vote.
Motion carries unanimously with Blakespear and Hinsey absent.
All right. So that is it with our consent calendar. We have no action items since the 10A is going to be held for a future date. We have no informational items. Do we have any council member initiated items? No, we don't have any council member initiated items. Do we have any council member reports pursuant to AB 1234? Councilmember Kranz.
No, sir.
Councilmember Lyons.
No, I do not.
I don't have anything to report either. City manager reports.
No report tonight.
All right, city attorney. City clerk.
No report.
Perfect. All right, nobody has anything to report, so that means that we're at the end of our agenda, and I'm going to adjourn this meeting. Thank you.